Hello, my name is Jessica Vitek, and I'm an associate professor at the University of Maryland. Today I'm sharing a brief overview of a project with co-author Michael Zimmer from Marquette University, looking at attitudes toward workplace surveillance during the pandemic. As millions of workers shifted to working from home in the early months of the pandemic, we also began to see an increased push for new ways to monitor employee productivity. These headlines represent just a few of the news articles that have covered changes in workplace surveillance technology over the last year. One way to look at data collection like this is through the lens of privacy as contextual integrity. Helen Niesenbaum uses this framework to argue that our interactions and data disclosures occur in particular contexts, and norms of appropriateness govern our expectations of how personal information should flow within a given context. Our study used factorial vignettes to explore workers' attitudes toward different types of surveillance practices. We used contextual integrity to guide the development of the vignettes. This slide includes the template for each vignette. Each person responded to 30 vignettes, and the 4 factors randomly varied each time. About 650 American workers completed the survey in November 2020. This slide includes a screenshot of a sample vignette. Each vignette included 2 questions assessing their perceived appropriateness and concern with a given scenario. From this, we collected evaluations of more than 20,000 scenarios, and we were able to begin identifying pain points, or where workers drew the line between more and less concerning types of surveillance. For example, this slide shows the most and least appropriate and concerning data attributes across all scenarios. Feel free to pause the video to look at this in more detail. This slide shows differences in worker attitudes toward different data purposes, or the goal of data collection by employers. This slide details differences in the actors, or who would have access to this data. Finally, this slide looks at 4 transmission principles, with the least concerning being that surveillance would end when employees returned to the office. The main takeaway from this study is that while employee surveillance is on the rise, workers have varying levels of concern based on the type of data being collected, what the data will be used for, who will have access to the data, and when data collection will occur. There are valid concerns that surveillance that began during the pandemic will continue after, creating a slippery slope of monitoring that increasingly infringes on workers' privacy. Thank you for listening, and visit pearl.umd.edu for more information on this and related work.